Thank you, Daniel, and thank you very much to the Economist team for welcoming me here today, and what a distinguished panel and terrific insights here. I'm going to lay out sort of two larger themes, if I might. One, talking a little bit about how Washington works, and I want to underscore some of the points that Marcos has made about the parties and the separation of powers that we have in the U.S., especially as I was following the Ukraine aid debate in Europe, and Europe's unwillingness to understand how Washington political decisions are made. And this will play out regardless of who wins, whether we have a Democrat, whether we have a Republican in the White House in January of 2025. If there is a Republican president, if you have President Trump and you have a Democratic House or Senate or both houses controlled by the Democrats, count on very, very difficult challenges in forging some type of common U.S. foreign policy between the White House and the Congress. And the Congress has the power of the purse, very, very influential, and so can decide whether or not to fund any of President Trump's priorities, and vice versa if the Republicans control both houses of the Congress, the Senate and the House of Representatives, under a Biden or Newsom or Kamala Harris presidency. So we need to be very mindful of some of the specific issues where there is already some discord. If you have a Trump presidency, I think you'll see a stronger Democratic push towards reassuring the NATO alliance that there will be continued U.S. aid to Ukraine, whether it's all military or whether it's more sort of a balanced approach remains to be seen. And also, I think if we have a Republican Congress controlling both houses and a Democrat in the White House, you'll see a far stronger push on pro-Israel policies. You see now the debate that's playing out both within the Democratic Party. The anti-war wing is becoming much more prominent in the Democratic Party. And on the Republican side with Ukraine, there's a greater sense that perhaps the U.S. is facing very difficult fiscal constraints going forward and also has to prioritize other issues, especially the Indo-Pacific. So whoever is president, I would say, there are going to be three larger priorities. One is going to be rebuilding our defense industrial base. It's essentially hollowed out, ladies and gentlemen, and we are entering a period, from an American perspective, I would say, of what I call hard truths and tough choices, underlining constraints that we're going to have on foreign policy and national security. We don't build ships anymore. All the ships that are used for military purposes from an American or Western perspective are largely built in China and South Korea. We've allowed our manufacturing base to hollow out over the last 20 to 30 years for the sake of outsourcing to China and to other Asian markets because it was more cost-effective for American companies at the expense of the American middle class. And you see this playing out now with the very popular support for President Trump over the last, well, 2 cycles and now possibly a third. And I think we're also going to be seeing a significant increase in the U.S. defense budget, potentially exceeding $900 billion to $1 trillion perhaps, to deal with these challenges that we're facing in Europe, in the Middle East, and potentially in the Indo-Pacific region. And a good part of that will largely play out in the realm of research and development, because especially, I would say, the competition with the Communist Party of China will not only be on the military level, but also in the field of technology, quantum computing, robotics, artificial intelligence, all of these frontier breakthrough technologies that will dominate the global economy of the 21st century. And largely, we have to get our fiscal house in order. Just recently, the U.S. overall debt is exceeding our GDP. We are on track now for, under the current trajectory, to reach a $50 trillion debt by 2035. It is not sustainable, especially with entitlements for Social Security, Medicare, and the like, and the idea that we're now paying more in interest debt payments than we are for our defense puts us in a very precarious situation, whoever is in the White House. Let me also just bring it a little bit closer to the region, ladies and gentlemen, and talk about a few scenarios that we're looking at in the Eastern Mediterranean and the periphery outside of the NATO alliance. We have, I don't know if he's still here, we had the Prime Minister of Moldova before. That is a country that is going to undergo extreme stress, I believe, from Russia, which still has 1,500 troops occupying Transnistria. And that's going to be an area where Russia will exercise leverage, depending on the battlefield situation in Ukraine. We're not sure if we're going to have peace or war between energy-rich Azerbaijan, increasingly armed by Russia and Turkey and by Israel, against an increasingly impoverished but pro-Western Armenia. So you could have a breakthrough there, or you could have war. We see Russia that is not only building stronger bases in Syria based on the lease they cut with Assad in 2015, but potentially building out now a base in Tobruk, just south of Crete, in the eastern Mediterranean Sea. And what does that mean for US and NATO power projection? Russia may be arming the Houthis to more sustainably attack global shipping in the Red Sea, partly as a retaliation for the permission now for Ukraine to strike at targets inside of Russia. They don't have to necessarily retaliate against Ukrainians. They can use the global chessboard to retaliate. And another potential scenario now, and one that has been hinted at publicly by the Iranian regime, is to arm the Polisario Front in the Western Sahara to attack global shipping in the Straits of Gibraltar. So this is the kind of a situation that we're potentially facing in the next 4 years, regardless of who is occupying the Situation Room in the White House.